now listening to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the 15-minute show, part of the Arsenal Therapy Podcast. Today we're going to talk about Arsenal's new signing, Martin Zubimendi, but more specifically, we're going to talk about how he will fit together with Declan Rice. I have done a previous scouting show on Martin Zubimendi where I go into very specific details about him, but today we're going to look at how he fits into the Arsenal midfield, have a look at how he's been used at Sociedad, and how he compares to Jorginho, particularly during his Napoli days, his early days at Chelsea, and during Arsenal's best form during 23-24, when Rice was just starting to thrive as an 8. We know that Martin Zubimendi and Declan Rice have shared the pitch before. On that occasion, Zubimendi came out top when he came on for Rodri at halftime in the final of Euro 2024. He ultimately won the competition, and Rice had a relatively poor game and looked absolutely burnt out. There's been a lot of anxiety about the signing of Martin Zubimendi. We know he turned down Liverpool last summer. Bayern Munich have been very, very keen on him for a number of years, and he's been publicly courted by Real Madrid, who seem desperate to get that move in and scupper us to this signing. It's been very media-driven, but Martin Zubimendi is an Arsenal player. He's going to be a huge part of our system next year, and this is a player who is one of the most in-demand tempo-setting midfielders in the world. We're going to talk about that phrase, what it means, and why he is such an in-demand player, but ultimately how he will fit in at Arsenal. And one of the things I look back at with both players, because Zubimendi and Declan Rice are two players that you hear a lot of very, very positive things about from coach and staff, from their academy days right through to where they're at now. One of these was interesting. It was about Zubimendi from one of his academy coaches at Sociedad. He said he's so good with the ball, controlling the game, the passing, but one of the things he does brilliantly is defending. He is good at all aspects of the game. You'll also hear repeated praise of Zubimendi's character, his humility, his drive, and just ultimately people are so impressed with this player and his mentality. It's such a big reason why he has stood out so much in a relatively poor Sociedad team. Similarly, I went back and had a look at what some people said about Declan Rice. And this was a quote from Matty Upson, who, former Arsenal man, is or currently, or was at the time, a coach at West Ham. I'm not sure if he still is, but he talked about Declan Rice's rise. This is around 2018, 2019. And the main thing that stood out was he said he wasn't surprised because his attitude and application is first class. He listens, he wants to do well, and then he's eager to get on to the next challenge, and he's tough. Zubimendi's very similar in that sense. He wants that next challenge. He wants to learn. He wants to develop, and he is tough, and defensively, he's a jeweler, and that is what Mikel Arteta likes in a player. In terms of his completeness, I decided to have a look at some of his numbers, and Sky Sports had this great graphic. In terms of touches, he ranked 20th in La Liga. Considering Sociedad finished 11th and were around the mid-table point for possession, that's an extremely high number of touches, and he isn't a player that wants to be on the ball all the time. This is one of the things with sixes and where Martin Zubimendi differs slightly. A lot of sixes you'll see with a 94% completion rate, but Martin Zubimendi averages around 84 because he wants to move the ball forward. He wants to give it first time, and he's not someone that wants to play safe. He will go sideways. He will go backwards, but he does it quickly. He doesn't waste time. He's got great touch economy, and he just wants to move the ball. If you look at passes attempted, this is very impressive because actually, again, he's played in a team without a lot of the ball, and he's still ranking 18th in La Liga for passes attempted. And passes a position one in the middle third, he ranks third. That's incredibly highly because he's someone that we hear defensive liability. He doesn't have the legs. He's not quick. Martin Zubimendi is one of the best interceptors, anticipators, and ball winners in centre midfield. However, his weakness comes whenever you turn and have him running on transition. But that is the one real weakness in his game, and we will get into that and more as it goes on. As I said, interceptions, extremely strong. He ranks 12th. This is a guy that's 5'11", so he's not tall, he's not small, but in comparison to some midfielders in Spain like Luciano Gomez, who's a big, tall, rangy, long-legged player who can get that leg in there. 12th is extremely high for interceptions and total tackles, 13th in the league. Again, unbelievably high. So this is a guy that is very, very complete in the middle of the park and a real I wouldn't say dynamic midfielder. However, he can carry very well. He's a good runner. He's just not quick at running backwards. In terms of heat maps, so this is where we start to get into how these two are going to work together. What you'll see is Zubimendi and Rice both have a slight left-sided bias. But when you look at where they operate, Zubimendi is more focused in and around that 6 zone. He does want to come out to the left a bit. And as a result, we could see Arsenal's left-hand side really strengthen here. Zubimendi is equally comfortable going on the right. He doesn't have that angle bias that Thomas Partey has, where Thomas wants to get that ball swept out to Saka on the right-hand side time and time again. Zubimendi's someone that wants to release it first time, and he can go left foot, right foot. He drops the shoulder quite often and starts running with the ball, doesn't take a touch to beat his man, and just plays that ball very quickly. This is something that can really see Declan Rice develop. It means he will be getting the ball faster, getting it whenever he's running, not having to take that touch and being allowed to run onto the ball. Similarly, Arsenal's left winger will get that ball quicker. For me, one of the big improvements we'll see is Zubimendi is ultimately very comfortable playing right in the middle and going either side. He can do that with both feet. That's something that's very, very difficult to come across. We've seen players like Santi Cazorla at Arsenal who could use both feet absolutely effortlessly. So Zubimendi is in that category where he is so good and so quick thinking with both feet, and he doesn't have to take that touch. As much as I love Declan Rice, you do see when he gets onto that left foot, there is that moment of hesitation. He wants to set himself with the extra touch. Zubimendi, by contrast, will go first time. He doesn't have that fear on his weaker foot that other players have, and that's something that I think is going to be a huge benefit and really allow him and Rice to connect. With regards to his passing numbers in comparison to our midfielders, Zubimendi, his passes are just below Thomas Partey, which is, again, insane considering he's playing in a team with a much lower possession percentage. And also that finished 11th. They are a much, much weaker team than Arsenal. The players around him aren't good enough. We'll have a look at the positions that some of them take up. But Jorginho is a difficult one because he didn't play a huge amount of minutes, but he does actually play quite a lot of forward passes, despite what the narrative is about him. Declan Rice, this is a hard one to judge now because Declan Rice is playing so high up the pitch that forward passes tend to be much shorter, and the space that he's passing into is so congested. That's a lot of forward passes that he played, but it's still a lot lower than someone like Zubimendi. But a big part of that is because Zubimendi's playing deep. He's passing into the middle of the park, and Declan Rice is passing into a very congested area. So when he gets the ball, part of it will be protecting the ball in that area, keeping it moving. But with him getting it quicker, he should be able to play some of those passes quickly, and it could see that his number of forward passes increase. But actually, Declan Rice's completed rate of forward passes is incredibly high. So I talked about looking at positions. So I started looking back to our form with Jorginho and Rice, and this was when Rice really started to kick on in the 8 role over from the beginning of 2024 right through to now. And some of those performances have come specifically with Jorginho in the team. Here you can see Saliba on the ball, playing it out wide, but you can see Jorginho right in the middle there, just beside West Ham's number 4, playing very much that lone 6 role. Declan Rice, very high, very wide, beyond Calafiori, and almost in line with the 3 attackers. This is a position that we see a lot at Arsenal, and this is where our 6 is going to need to play in possession. In possession, they will play very much in this role with Rice and Odegaard ahead of them. We will see the fullback tuck in. Here you can see Calafiori starting to move across, and that's something we will see next season. So Calafiori, Lewis Skelly, whoever it is, they will move into the centre to create a double pivot in possession. However, one of the things I would like to see, given how quickly Zubimendi can move the ball, is for our fullback to stay wide at times and not always create a double pivot, but allow Declan Rice to play more of a box-to-box role, come deep, get the ball, rather than just staying completely high all the time. Here we see Sociedad, and one of the things that stands out with Sociedad is whilst they have one of the higher lines in La Liga, they do play with a lot less possession, and they have finished 11th. I have to reiterate that again. The quality of this team has been very, very poor. But here, Zubimendi, low on 6, but look at the distances between him and his teammates. This is the season before last, so they finished 5th that year, and you can see it's actually Mikel Merino who's ahead of him towards the halfway line on the left. This is one of the advantages as well. Zubimendi and Merino already have that relationship and understanding. They played together for about 6 years at Sociedad, so that will be a huge benefit in terms of him settling into the team. But you can see he's comfortable standing in the middle of the park and receiving here. He doesn't need really short distances. Same here. Centre back has the ball. Zubimendi is just guiding play. He's someone that will happily drag his marker. He doesn't always want the ball. And this has been a criticism I've had of Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey always wants to get the ball whenever he's at 6. He comes looking for it. Zubimendi will come and show for it, but often then spin and drag his marker away. That allows a space for a centre back to start carrying the ball up the pitch. And Arsenal have one of the best carriers from the back in William Saliba. We will see Zubimendi come deep, look for the ball, and then almost just drift away, pulling his marker along with him. And that allows someone like Saliba to really carry the ball up the park. And Declan Rice is already starting in that 8 position, more advanced, and it just allows us to really push defenses back, pull people apart, and unsettle them, because a man is just moving people out of the way by doing nothing with the ball. Again, Zubimendi under pressure. As I mentioned, he's happy receiving in that 6th position. But what you can see is his passes go all over the park. Again, this is the season before last, because Sociedad were a much better team that year. And you could see 328 successful passes under pressure and just 49 unsuccessful ones. So a very high pass percentage accuracy under pressure, 87%, showing that he's capable. And you can see some of these balls, they're going long, they're going short, they're going forwards, backwards, they're going all over the park. He can do it all, and a big part of that is his two-footedness. Again, another example here is Zubimendi very much sitting in that 6 role. You can see the 3 ahead of him with the 2 wingers. Essentially, this is becoming a 2-3-5. And this is what Arsenal played a lot in the 23-24 season. 2 centre-backs, 3 ahead of them, and then 5 attackers sitting very high up the park. Zubimendi's already drilled in this system, and Spain do it as well. Spain get those fullbacks. Spain have their fullbacks much wider in the same way that Sociedad do here, but then 3 ahead of them, and the 2 centre-backs fairly isolated because they're both very good on the ball. And with Saliba and Gabriel, they thrive in those situations. So again, when you look at the build-up, you can see here Rice and Partey sitting beside each other in a 2. They've created that double pivot, and Rice is just slightly ahead, and you can see him scanning the pitch for where to go as Waneri plays that ball into Martinelli. So again, this is something where you'll see Zubimendi probably standing where Thomas Partey is in that position, but he will move and look for the ball, and quite often he will give it first time and keep the ball rolling, allowing Arsenal to move up the pitch very, very quickly. He doesn't want 3 or 4 touches. He's not someone that always wants to beat his man. He likes to release it quickly, and he understands speed and tempo. That's not to say he won't put his foot in the ball and slow it down when necessary. But when we talk about tempo setting, he is very good at either speeding the game up, slowing it down, or just keeping the ball moving and pointing to his teammates and moving the game around like a chess match. Prime example is with Spain. Here we see him and his teammate in midfield. I'm not sure exactly who it is, but they've dropped into a double pivot. You can see the 2 centre-backs with the 2 full-backs wide. And in this occasion, because they've created a double pivot, you've got 4 attackers almost in a line ahead of them. Again, they've got 1 centre-back sitting very, very deep. We see this with Arsenal with Saliba, where he will sit deep. He's happy to get the ball, to carry, to pass, to do whatever it is. But this is where Arsenal and Spain play very, very similar football. And Martin Zubimendi is already drilled on this. He knows how to play it, and he will fit very closely with Declan Rice in this situation. Because we've seen before, in big games especially, Declan Rice will play very much a box-to-box role, but out of possession, he will drop deep to create that double pivot. In possession as well, we've seen Jorginho at times. When Arsenal are seeking and really pressuring teams to win the ball, Jorginho will sit and Declan Rice will become that pressing, dominant, really dogged ball winner, going forward, really pressuring people, allowing Arsenal to utilise Declan Rice's almost biggest superpower, which is his running power and his engine. And in this case, you can see how quickly he susses out danger, how quickly he's getting into the Liverpool players. And you can see Jorginho just keeping an eye on his man. He knows exactly where he is, and he's allowing Declan Rice to go forward, knowing that Arsenal have that ability. And Saka, rather than pressing relentlessly, will allow someone like Declan Rice or Martin Odegaard to do that. And then again, when the opposition have the ball, you can see here, rather than Partey and Rice, Jorginho and Rice have gone into that line, and Arsenal have gone into 4-4-2 out of possession. Very, very common. Out of possession, we will drop into that 4-4-2 double pivot, make sure that our players are protected, that we filled all the spaces and everyone knows where to stand. It becomes very difficult to play through you in that way. And what's interesting here is we see Sociedad, and one of the things you notice, and this happens repeatedly with Sociedad, is they're not as organised out of possession as Arsenal are. So here you see Zubimendi winning the ball back. You can see them starting to go into almost a 4-4-2. The two attackers and the back four are getting fairly level, but the midfield is much more spread out, sporadic. But they've got that unit of four. You can see four players in the middle of the box creating almost like a box shape, a cage that squeezes the opposition in and allows them to have small distances so you're not covering big areas of ground. With Arsenal, it's more flat, it's more level. This is an example against City last year, very much 4-4-2. Rice and Jorginho in the middle of the park, close together, no distances. And this means for someone like Jorginho, who doesn't have the legs to get back, and believe me, Zubimendi is much, much quicker than Jorginho, but it gives them that protection. It means he knows where to be. He knows that he's got Declan Rice beside him, and you've got real security in the middle of the park. And if you look at Nathan Ake on the ball here, he's got an option to go wide, sideways. They're the only options. Playing through the middle, it becomes very, very congested. And this is where Rice and Zubimendi will form that partnership whenever the ball is with the opposition. But I've talked a lot about what Zubimendi can do in the sixth position with Rice advancing. But one of the things that's possibly being overlooked is Zubimendi's ability to go forward. He can carry the ball up the park and give that final ball as well. This is an example. In the build up to this, Zubimendi actually plays a 1-2 and he keeps running through the middle and he plays that. And every action is first time here. But looking back, we can see Jorginho and Rice doing that at Arsenal. On this occasion, as Arsenal get further up and play high, Rice is still advanced, but Jorginho's coming up and playing that ball into Bukayo Saka. And on this occasion, he just releases him straight into the box. Brilliant ball. Arsenal are one up very, very quick. This game we won 7-0 and we were 6-0 up by halftime. Jorginho and Rice were absolutely sensational this day. And again, this is an example of how Zubimendi can fit in the role that Jorginho was doing and really help Arsenal thrive, because it is a position where we've seen Thomas Partey be very, very good, but this will give Arsenal a completely different dynamic and allow us to really improve both in the early stages of the game with that tempo set, fast midfielder, quick release, but also going forward and in the final third. Interestingly, I mentioned that Zubimendi's weakness that we always hear is on transition. This is a very famous clip. This is when Haaland tries to body Saliba. Saliba ends up putting him on the floor. But you can see Declan Rice is running back. Jorginho's the man in the right position, but the ball's gone. Can he get back? Probably not. But you see Declan Rice 5-10 yards ahead, just more advanced, absolutely tearing it to get back. So with Zubimendi's out of possession qualities, what people will be looking at and saying, oh, but he can't run backwards. The big thing here is Declan Rice can get up and down the pitch like almost no one else in the game. Behind him, you've got Saliba and Gabriel, two of the strongest, most physical, fast centre-backs out there. You've got Lewis Skelly or Calafiori at left back. You've got Timber or White at right back. All of these players are quick. All of these players are strong. So around Zubimendi, you're going to have a host of players that if he can't get back, these players can get back. So sometimes you have to look at what are the players' key strengths and how do they fit in with others. If you've got someone like Zubimendi out of position that can step in, anticipate, win his duels, and also win his aerial duels. He ranks really, really highly for aerial duels. He wins around 83% of them, which is incredibly high. and he wins his ground duels because he anticipates well, he intercepts well, he reads the ball well. Again, that allows Arsenal to win the ball back quickly. Too often out of possession, we can find ourselves just sitting and get very rest defense, 2 banks of 4, and really allow the opposition to settle. Someone like Zubimendi doing this, we rarely ever concede when that happens, but sometimes we settle into it too fast and we don't get ourselves on transition enough. The big solution here as well has to be the addition of a 9 and a winger, because we need that pace going forward. But if you've got Zubimendi who can anticipate well, win the ball well, and have then Declan Rice suddenly sprinting forward to join the attack, this is going to be a major, major asset for Arsenal. Interestingly as well, I haven't even mentioned Martin Odegaard. He should see himself getting the ball quicker. We've seen Odegaard having to drop very, very deep this season. His form's been drastically reduced. We know that, but it did start to come back a bit towards the end of the season. And hopefully with Zubimendi in the team next to him and releasing that ball a lot quicker, we will see Rice, Odegaard and Zubimendi really thrive together as a triangle in that 3, and those players really starting to grow together. But ultimately, this is one of the best signings you will see. This is a guy that can, as I said, put his foot in the ball, slow it down, but he won't do that very often in a game. If he needs to, and Arsenal are well ahead, you'll see that happening. But he's someone that wants to move it quickly. One of the big skills that's overlooked is the ability to go sideways and backwards effectively. Too often we see our players, when we go sideways and backwards and fans get frustrated, is because they've taken 2 or 3 touches before they go backwards. If the ball comes to Zubimendi, he's going to knock that back first time. If Raya plays it to him and he's not in a position to turn and go, he will just spray that ball out wide to Timber or back to Saliba, and he does it quickly. Then he drifts into position and he goes and gets the ball. He's someone that's happy not to get it, as I said. He will pull his marker away and create space for other people. He's just very, very clever. That does apply out of position as well, and he can be dragged out by his own marker as he focuses very heavily on that. But Mikel Arteta is one of the best positional coaches on the planet. He's improved so many players. With someone like Zubimendi, I expect quite quick improvements in that. The big question will be how quickly Zubimendi can settle in, how quickly he adapts to the Premier League. But we have seen Spanish midfielders with high technical quality thrive from very, very early on. So this is a signing that you should all be incredibly excited about. The length of time it's dragged on shouldn't change the impact of this signing, because as I mentioned, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Bayern Munich all wanted this player, and Arsenal's proactiveness has got this deal done. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, please hit subscribe. Please check out some of our other videos in this series where we do go into detail on positional play, scouting, and so on. But please keep coming back. The channel's really growing, and we appreciate all the support. Have a great day. We'll see you again soon.